So guys, coming into this one, rather unexpectedly, Millennium just building up the lead straight from the beginning and running with it, and it didn't seem like they were going to lose the game in any point.
No, and actually, in fact, if you actually look at the game, it was very, very similar to Fnatic. In fact, I wonder whether these guys have been scrimming together because the picks were fairly similar, the game style was very similar, and all along, and we just heard Creton talking about how it was a pick comp, and it absolutely was, because you saw Kerp constantly using that ulti, catching someone out. Often it was Mr. Rales, the AD carry was there, very similar to Peke and Reckless, the double teamwork. So it really did work very well for Millennium this time around. Surprised quite a lot of us, and probably Super Hot Crew involved as well.
Yeah, definitely caught me off guard. Kerp's Twisted Fate was very, very good. But Kerp definitely seems to play that he either destroys everyone or he does a bit mediocre. And you basically explained the whole tempo of the game. Kerp found picks. We have a replay to actually exemplify that. If we can pull that replay up onto your screen. And it's going to start with one of these Twisted Fate ganks. 4-7 up, completely even on gold. Millennium are actually down on towers at this point in the game. At 28 minutes, Super Hot Crew have held them off, considering Millennium was in control. So let's roll this clip out, and it really does just start with Millennium focusing down Mr. Rawls. Instantly going to pop him, gold card lands, wild cards are going to finish him off. And because of the grouping of Millennium, they're going to run away with the rest of the fight. Jerry gets a pretty good solar flare, and props to Cottonex as well, landing the key skill shots. Jax was a non-factor. 30 minutes in, he's only got a Blade of the Ruined King and a Phage, and you've got to give props to Creatine here. Swag points. Flash, Ardent Blaze, walks out. Cool
Already walking away. Yeah.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. So he gets 4 kills, the team backs away, they get Baron, and then it was just, again, 2 more of those sort of pick situations, and Millennium closed the game out.
Let's talk a little bit more about the pick comp, and in particular Twisted Fate. Twice today we saw Twisted Fate played by Fnatic a little earlier in the season. That didn't work out. Why does it work now? What has changed in your opinions?
Well, the game in the mid lane has changed somewhat over the recent months. Assassins are less prevalent thanks to the changes to Exhaust and the changes to Heal. We're not seeing much LeBlanc because she's banned all the time. Zed's not in the pool anymore. And those poking champions like Ziggs are so often on the bench, are so often removed away. So when you have this mid lane matchup where Twisted Fate has time to build himself up, he's got good wave clear, he's got good burst, he mitigates the stealth champions which are super popular like Evelynn, like Twitch. So in this game, Mr. Rolls was never safe because Destiny always made him a pinpoint target. So I think it's just the way the trending champions of Twitch and Eve are up, which means Twisted Fate comes back, and also because the mid lane can't counter him as hard.
And you got to wonder, obviously, the players, Twisted Fate, we've seen it quite a few times actually coming up in the last few weeks, but actually not very well. Yeah. Seems that teams suddenly have remembered, this is how you play Twisted Fate, you need to pick people off. So suddenly, obviously everyone's had a lot more experience on it, a lot more practice in team fights, and it's working a lot better now.
Let's theorize a little bit about what this means for both the Super Hot Crew and Millennium. I asked Creaton, what was going on, and he said it seemed that after we were winning, we were playing too safe. How do you think that this will go further in the season if you look at their play right now?
I think Millennium are only winning games when they play pick-style compositions. You go back to 2 weeks ago when Kerp destroyed people on Fizz. It's a pick composition. Kevin is only playing Irelia at the moment. He's not super comfortable in Shyvana. He said so last week in an interview. What this means for Millennium, they need to diversify. They can't rely on pick comps only to find wins. It's working now. It might not in a few weeks when the meta changes or shifts away. For Super Hot Crew, they just need to not panic. They were 30 minutes in. They had under onslaught of Kerp's Twisted Fate, and they were even on gold. They were ahead on towers. So they weren't doing badly, even under all of that pressure.
Yeah, and they actually had a great late team composition as well, of course, with the KL Jackson there. They would have done really well. That's exactly what they were aiming to do, just hold out. And you kind of, again, you look at SK. SK were trying to do the similar thing, but credit to Kerp diving with that ulti onto the tower to create the whole play, to set the game up.
Yeah, and on the other side, the Super Hot Crew, of course, they were getting so hyped and doing so well. Is this just a 2-off, those 2 games they lost now in a row?
I don't know, because even in the games, like against the Lions, they were completely outclassed. Super Hot Crew really got destroyed. I mean, there's nothing about that. Against Millennium, Millennium played better, but it's hard to say whether or not was Super Hot Crew losing or Millennium just outplaying them. So it's not panic stations yet. They're still middle of the table. It's not the end of the road yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great team play from Millennium. And actually, at the start of today's show, we asked you to hit us up on Twitter to let us know which European LCS team do you think has shown the most consistent teamwork so far and why. The first tweet is from @MertRusso. I have to say to Super Hot Crew, when the game gets super late, the team's coordination is the difference between victory and defeat. Sadly, they didn't get to the super late game here.
This almost would have been right. And actually, to be fair, they have been great at the start of the season. They're now actually tied for third place with Fnatic and Millennium, I believe. They're all on 5 and 4. So, you know, it has been a great start to the season for Super Hot Crew. They did look very good at the start. They've got to make sure they don't slip into a run.
They had an extremely long game that they finished successfully as well last time, of course. The second tweet is from @Harakos. I think SK is currently showing the best teamwork. The synergy between Svenskeren and the rest of the team is outstanding. And I dare say, even in the loss today, they kept putting up good team fights in the end game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think SK as a team, that's their biggest strength. They have struggled in the laning phase. They have struggled a little bit in the individual matchups from time to time. And today's game demonstrates that. They fell behind in the laning phase, and Fnatic just punished them for it.
The last tweet is from @IGCreedster. Alliance for sure. Their team synergy has reached a new level this split, which made the whole team, but mostly Tabs, more confident. We're about to see them in action.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Alliance have been magnificent at the start of this season. 7 and 1. We talked about how in this pre-show, how this is the deadliness time for any team that reaches 7 and 1 generally goes downhill from here.
Don't jinx.
So they're playing Gambit next. It's a tricky game. You never know what Gambit's going to turn up like. But honestly, Alliance have by far looked the best team by a mile in Europe right now.
That was also Gambit that broke Fnatic's winning streak.
It
Let's
was,
split around, so maybe. I don't want to jinx it for Alliance. Thank you for those tweets, and we're always ready for more. Be sure to follow us @LOL Esports, and of course use the hashtag LCS for your game day chatter. And now we're going to send it back over to Joe and the Fish Show at the desk.